Today, we will use a scientific perspective to explore the complex truth behind meteorological events. According to the latest news from the British Sky News Network on February 1st, the most powerful storm in Norway in more than 30 years swept across a wide area of northern Europe, causing serious damage. Hurricane intensity reaches 180 kilometers per hour. The Norwegian Meteorological Institute set a new national wind speed record of 195.8 kilometers per hour was set on Soma Island early Thursday. Police said a bus carrying 14 passengers was blown off the road near the picturesque town of Norddal, northeast of Bergen, Norway's second-largest city, but no casualties were reported. Flooding occurred in some areas and airlines and ferry operators suspended services. Schools, roads, tunnels and bridges were closed due to high winds, rain and snow. An estimated 12,000 homes were without power. In addition, Sweden also experienced hurricane-force wind gusts overnight. The Swedish Meteorological and Hydrological Institute has issued the highest level of red warning for the western region of Norrbotten province on the border with Norway. Schools in the Swedish town of Kiruna are closed. Thank you for liking, leaving comments, subscribing and turning on the little bell. We will update every day. The storm, which Norwegian meteorologists named Ingen, made landfall in central Norway on Wednesday afternoon and moved north on Thursday. The Meteorological Institute issued a red warning and multiple avalanche warnings in the Arctic. Windows were smashed at a hotel in the Nordland district of Bodo, police said, adding that the center of Bodo was later cordoned off due to a risk to life and health. The University Hospital of Northern Norway said part of the roof of its branch on Hinnøya, Norway's largest island, was damaged. The helipad was littered with debris. In the town of Harstad, roof tiles were flying across the town and visibility was poor. The Norwegian Water and Energy Agency has issued the highest level avalanche warning for much of southern and central Norway in the coming days. The agency also warned of considerable risks of landslides, mudslides and flash floods during the same period. A spokesman for Trøndelag Regional Police said public safety agencies received 40 to 50 reports overnight from homes affected by the storm. This storm hit the same area as the 1992 New Year's cyclone, one of the strongest storms in Norwegian history. On Wednesday night, the storm deepened to a minimum central pressure of 940 HPA, close to Norway's official low-pressure record of 938.5 HPA set in 1907. The storm was Norway's most powerful in decades, with sustained winds equivalent to a Category 1 wind hurricane. In recent years, various parts of the world have been hit by hurricanes frequently. In fact, the formation of hurricanes is a complex process. First, hurricanes originate from low-pressure areas over tropical oceans. When the sea surface temperature is higher than 26.5 degrees Celsius, sufficient moisture and energy are provided for tropical cyclones. These nascent disturbances are often located in areas associated with tropical waves, a band of disturbance that moves along the equator from Africa to the Atlantic Ocean. Then, under favorable circumstances, these disturbances will slowly organize and develop into tropical depressions. They will then intensify into tropical storms, with maximum sustained wind speeds of at least 63 kilometers per hour. This stage is very critical and most incipient storms have difficulty passing through. Once formed, the storm gains energy from accumulated latent heat and begins to spiral. Then, as the system continues to strengthen, the eye wall will tighten around the center of the storm, a process known as the eye wall replacement cycle. The new, more compact eye walls differ from previous eye walls in that they surround an eye-like structure that is typically smaller but has stronger winds and lower air pressure. This makes the entire system more cohesive and organized. This new eye wall structure allows the wind speed to accelerate to more than 120 kilometers per hour. The air pressure continues to drop, and the storm reaches hurricane intensity. Once formed, hurricanes absorb large amounts of moisture and heat from the ocean surface. Hurricanes themselves also push the oceans upward, bringing more warm water from below. This provides the fuel for the hurricane to continue to strengthen. Hurricanes also create their own updrafts, which help draw more surface moisture into the storm. On the other hand, the extremely low pressure in a hurricane also accelerates air into the eye, providing power to the entire system. The combination of all these factors allows hurricanes to intensify quickly and systematically. When a hurricane passes over the ocean under the best conditions, it can intensify by 15 to 20 millibars per day, and the wind speed can increase by 30 to 40 kilometers per day. This process of explosive enhancement involves much more than just the right combination of environmental factors. This includes weak wind shear, high sea surface temperatures, low air temperatures, etc. Once these conditions are not maintained, the rate of hurricane intensification will slow down. It's worth noting that land and cooler ocean surfaces weaken hurricanes. As a hurricane moves over land or cooler water, it loses fuel and begins to weaken. Hurricanes rely on warm, moist air and hot ocean surfaces interacting with them to maintain their strength. When this supply is interrupted, its intensity drops significantly. Slowing down movement speed also causes weakening. At the same time, changes in a hurricane's path can also affect its intensity. When a hurricane's path turns, increased wind shear destroys its symmetry and weakens the storm. Hurricanes may also undergo eye wall replacement, which can reduce their intensity for a short period of time, but may also cause them to intensify again later. Therefore, the formation and intensification of hurricanes require the precise coordination of multiple environmental factors: warm sea temperatures, sufficient latent heat, weak vertical wind shear, drier air, etc. Changes in any link may upset this balance and weaken the intensifying storm. Generally speaking, hurricanes bring devastating damage, including the combined effects of strong winds, heavy rain, and storm surge. First, sustained strong winds of more than 120 kilometers per hour will occur in the hurricane center and surrounding areas. This can easily uproot trees and knock over power poles. At the same time, it will cause structural damage to the house, broken windows, and flying tiles from the roof are common direct consequences. Secondly, the amount of rainfall in the rain band area around the hurricane is also amazing. Heavy rains can cause massive flooding within hours, with rivers overflowing. Urban roads, highways, and underpasses will be quickly flooded. The drainage system is overwhelmed and waterlogging is serious. Landslides also occur from time to time, increasing the risk of disasters. In addition, the pressure at the center of the hurricane is extremely low, which will suck up seawater to form a huge storm surge. It is not uncommon for storm surges to be 5 to 6 meters above normal sea level. They can push seawater dozens of kilometers inland, causing devastating blows to coastal areas. Such a tsunami-level storm surge will destroy coastal houses, block rivers in reverse, and prolong inland flooding disasters. It is worth noting that the above factors will also produce various chain reactions. Blocked rivers and damaged drainage systems can exacerbate waterlogging. The receding storm surge will also cause serious pollution, and siltation will pose a secondary disaster to the environment. More importantly, the transportation system has also been severely impacted. The airport runway was flooded, port facilities were damaged, and planes and ships were unable to enter or exit. Blocked traffic arteries make emergency rescue difficult. After the hurricane, road repairs took a long time to complete. In addition, food and fresh water supplies can be in trouble after a hurricane. Destroyed farmland and damaged food reserves will lead to food supply shortages and skyrocketing prices. Damage to the tap water system and leakage of pollutants have led to a lack of drinking water and widespread disease outbreaks. The medical service system is overwhelmed, resulting in more casualties. It must be mentioned that large-scale power outages can also lead to disruptions in oil and natural gas supplies. Gasoline supply shortages further hampered relief efforts. Network and power outages have slowed down the progress of post-disaster reconstruction. In addition, these types of damage can compound the impact of multiple hurricanes hitting the same area. The restoration work has been full of twists and turns, and regional development has seriously regressed. Community cohesion has declined and population outflow has intensified. The economic and psychological trauma caused by hurricane disasters can last for many years. When a hurricane strikes, individuals can make some preparations in advance to ensure the safety of themselves and their families. First of all, you should pay close attention to the hurricane path and intensity forecast issued by the meteorological department, and determine whether you need to take shelter based on the risk level of your area. If the path prediction is accurate enough and the risk is high, you should leave the local area as soon as possible and go to a shelter or a safer home of relatives and friends for temporary refuge. Secondly, prepare an emergency supply bag in advance so you can take it with you at any time, including first aid kit, flashlight, batteries, food, drinking water, cash, copies of important documents, commonly used medicines, hygiene and personal care items, spare glasses, etc. Keep it somewhere easily accessible. Pack important items and documents for quick transport. At the same time, outdoor items such as potted plants, furniture, etc. should be fixed or moved indoors to avoid them from flying around. Check roofs and house structures and reinforce weak links. In addition, an evacuation plan should be developed and multiple shelter locations should be marked. Learn about routes, transportation, and other information. Decide with your family where to regroup. If there are elderly, children, or other people with limited mobility at home, care needs to be arranged in advance. More importantly, know the contact information and important information of local government departments and public service agencies. Keep a radio and plenty of spare batteries to receive emergency broadcasts and stay tuned for official information. Inform relatives and friends of your whereabouts so they can contact you after the disaster. Register with your local government for assistance if you need help. It is necessary to constantly pay attention to weather warning information and make timely decisions on evacuation and return. When there is a serious traffic jam on an escape route, leave as early as possible without waiting for a deadline. Pay attention to driving safety, abide by traffic regulations, and look out for each other. When implementing evacuation operations, you should abide by government procedures and remain calm and rational. Flexibly adjust the self-rescue plan according to the actual situation. After a hurricane, do not return in a hurry without receiving safety notice. After confirming that living facilities are back to normal and safety hazards have been eliminated, they can return home and rebuild in an orderly manner. In addition, when facing a hurricane, the government and communities also need to be fully prepared in advance to ensure the safety of public life and property, and reduce disaster losses. First, the meteorological department must strengthen hurricane monitoring and forecasting. Use advanced equipment to monitor hurricane activity around the clock to improve the accuracy of forecasting path, intensity, and other factors. Publish timely and accurate early warning information to provide decision-making reference for flood control and drought relief departments and the public. Flood control and drought relief departments should formulate scientific disaster prevention plans. Identify disaster-prone areas and guide them in strengthening infrastructure such as reservoir dams and drainage pipe networks. Based on the characteristics of coastal areas, establish emergency plans to prevent storm surges and backflow. Reserve sufficient disaster relief supplies and emergency facilities. Secondly, relevant departments should organize people to move to avoid danger. Guide people to evacuate to designated shelters in an orderly manner according to risk zoning. Activate emergency transportation plans to ensure evacuation travel. Properly arrange for people with mobility difficulties and resources such as medical and health care and cooking facilities. The public sector must comprehensively strengthen its infrastructure. The power department inspects power grid equipment and blocks vulnerable lines. The water supply and drainage system strengthens the protection of key nodes such as pumping stations and reservoirs to prevent system failure or pollution. Increase backup generating units to ensure the supply of electricity for basic people's livelihood. More importantly, relevant departments must ensure people's daily life services. The Urban Management Department cleaned up easily blocked water pipelines, channeled drainage systems, and strengthened inspections of waterlogging points. Monitor and replenish reserves of emergency grain, oil, fuel, and other living supplies. Deploy medical and health rescue teams and reserve medicines and medical supplies. What cannot be ignored is the need to strengthen emergency transportation support. The transportation and railway departments have formulated flexible dispatch plans to transport emergency supplies and rescue personnel to the disaster areas. Establish accident emergency plans and rapid repair mechanisms for major railway and waterway transportation channels. It is worth noting that early warning deployment of armed forces and militia must be organized. Before the hurricane makes landfall, troops are mobilized as planned to enter the warning area in batches and cooperate with the local government for joint prevention and control. The militiamen spontaneously formed patrol teams to assist in the transfer of personnel and were on guard duty at key nodes. What needs more attention is the timely conduct of damage assessment after a hurricane. Collect disaster information and assess the damaged environment, casualties, and property losses. Analyze disaster situations, summarize experiences and lessons, and continuously improve the disaster prevention system. Distribute relief funds timely and accurately in accordance with the law to support the people's recovery and reconstruction. For rescue work after a hurricane, there are many things that need to be paid attention to. First, it is necessary to assess the safety situation of the disaster area and the location of trapped personnel. Send out reconnaissance teams to determine potential secondary disasters, such as landslides, building collapses, and other risks. Use equipment such as drones to locate trapped people to facilitate rescue forces to carry out targeted operations. Secondly, we must establish smooth communication links. Set up satellite communications and radio equipment to open up communication between the Disaster Relief Command System and the on-site rescue team. At the same time, self-rescue and help-seeking information is released to the public to understand the needs of people in disaster areas. In addition, rescue personnel and supplies must be transported into the disaster area as soon as possible. Due to traffic congestion, it is necessary to use multimodal transport by ships and land buses to increase transportation capacity. Strictly manage material dispatch to prevent robbery and plunder. Secondly, transport health workers, medical teams, pharmaceutical equipment, etc. to carry out treatment work. At the same time, damaged basic living facilities must be repaired in a timely manner. Emergency repairs of roads, bridges, and other vital transportation arteries for people's livelihood. Set up communication base stations and restore emergency power, water, and gas systems. Adopt transitional means such as the supply of generator sets. What cannot be ignored is the need to carry out water search and rescue and relay transfer of rescued personnel. Make full use of various types of vessels to actively carry out patrols and rescues, and pay attention to water safety. Actively rescue trapped vehicles and buildings while ensuring safety. Safely transport the injured to an onshore medical point. It is worth noting that it is necessary to do a good job in controlling and managing the floating population. Strictly prevent the rapid population movement caused by escaping from hurricanes, which may create hidden dangers for epidemic prevention and control. Promote necessary protective measures and provide testing and isolation areas. More importantly, it is necessary to carry out aftercare services to meet the basic living needs of the people. HVAC facilities, hot meals, and emergency accommodation are provided. Distribute drinking water and necessary daily necessities. Send dedicated personnel to take care of homeless and missing people, especially vulnerable groups such as children, the elderly, and the disabled. In response to hurricane disasters, several countries have accumulated rich experience, which is worthy of learning and reference by other countries. First is the United States. Hurricanes occur frequently in the Caribbean and Gulf Coast regions. The United States invests a lot of resources in meteorological monitoring and early warning, engineering protection, emergency management, and social preparedness. For example, Hurricane Hunters plans to install a large number of ocean surface weather buoys. New Orleans builds a 7.5-meter-high breakwater. Florida residents have advanced technology in housing protection projects, etc. These efforts ensure low hurricane mortality rates in the United States. Next is Japan. Japan is a country with the highest awareness of disaster prevention in the world and is frequently hit by typhoons. Wind damage prevention and control in Japan focuses on engineering protection, and seawalls and revetment projects are constructed to high standards. Japan also has a developed earthquake early warning system and emergency evacuation mechanism. At the same time, Japan also attaches great importance to improving the knowledge of disaster prevention and reduction among children and the public. What must be mentioned is the Netherlands. The Netherlands has complete weather monitoring equipment and can provide timely warnings of severe storm weather. The Netherlands has also established an efficient flood control system to resist storm surges, such as sea gates, large drainage pumps, and super-large reservoirs. The government enacted a mandatory evacuation law and provided people with full compensation for transfer costs. Society attaches great importance to the construction of hydrological defense projects. Thank you for liking, leaving a message, subscribing and turning on the little bell. We will update the latest news from around the world every day. Continue to use a scientific perspective to explore the complex truth behind meteorological events.